Dragonfly and TMG, we sit in a privileged position, able to see around corners at times. We believe that everything is gradual until it's sudden. We're going to review 2023 with you and show you the stories that we believe are going to drive the market moving forward. "2023, a year to remember."
Moonshot is about empowering the next generation of healthcare innovators to solve the world's biggest problems using a combination of medical technology, biotech, and AI. The program at Harvard is very simple. We're exposing them to the design process, the healthcare design process, the development process, and over 2 weeks this summer, students from all around the world are going to come in and be able to prototype a solution to diagnose and treat early-stage lung cancer.
It's really immersive because you get such an in-depth view into the medical field and computer science and the business side of everything.
I applied because it was at Harvard Medical School and I've always wanted to go there and experience the education there, and it has been absolutely amazing.
I think these kids have demonstrated that their minds are not confined to the traditional boxes of science and medicine and technology that we thought, that all these different factors coalesce into one for them to solve their problems.
Thank you to Santosh for starting this.
I think that this is definitely a program that everyone should try.
I'm glad I had the opportunity to attend.
We had Moonshot in-house. Santosh and the Harvard team joined us. And here's what I loved about this. Really important for our industry: diversity. Diversity in so many flavors. Diversity of age, diversity of thought, diversity of technical background, diversity of ethnicity. It's a powerful, powerful applicator to a solution set. So when Santosh was in, especially on Moonshot, we like that. It's a Harvard MedTech Lego set meeting each other and converging on the youth coming into MedTech.
MedTech Color also provides community, which is so important for people of color within the MedTech space. As we think about, to my mom's point, she came in at the executive level, but I didn't. I started, from the entry level up. And so when you're at those beginning stages, you need people to be mentors, to be sponsors, and MedTech Color provides that.
In addition to Moonshot, TMG and Dragonfly are super active, spending time with MedTech Color, discussing clinical trials in particular.
We're really excited in the collaborative because we bring together stakeholders across the medtech ecosystem. So it's large strategic companies, we have CMS, we have NIH, we have government representatives sitting in the collaborative, we have patients, and we have healthcare providers. And we're all united by this purpose of making medical device development more representative and inclusive of the entire patient population and getting more diverse patients as well as clinical investigators engaged in clinical research.
MedTech women, representing the powerful leadership in the MedTech industry.
The whole point of this whole organization was we need to build for others. Like that, I mean, the analogy we always used was throwing the ladder down to bring people up along with us. That was always the point of the organization. So this is just a manifestation of the why.
And MedTech Vets, another organization near and dear to our hearts, those who sacrifice much for all of us. Jeff Alvarez joined us in studio with Moon Surgical. Moon represents a variety of dynamic changes coming in MedTech. The emerging ambulatory surgical center and the form factors in robotics occurring there.
The healthcare system is definitely facing some really strong challenges. And the way that they're dealing with them is they're looking at their operating rooms, which are mostly profit centers, and how to drive more top-line revenue as well as more operational efficiency in them. And the way that they do that is by looking at, hey, these high-volume procedures, these lower acuity procedures, let's push those into the ambulatory surgery centers, the hospital outpatient departments, that are more focused on efficiency, right? They are doing 6 to 7 procedures a day in each one of these operating rooms, and with much lower overhead. And operating rooms today cost about $40 a minute to run, whether they're active or not, right? If there's a delay, that's how much it costs. And these outpatient centers are about $20 a minute. So it's a huge difference.
Moon also represents a rapidly emerging powerhouse in medtech, and not just in surgical robotics, but France is birthing some amazing technologies, especially in robotics, with organizations like Quantum, Accusurgical, Hobeat. I'm looking for big things coming out of that community in the next year or two. On the subject of ambulatory surgical centers, it's been a hot topic for those that are going to be looking at where market is going in advance. Look, it's going to be a tough unwrap for the large strategics. The bigger the organization, the tougher it is to unwind the entropy that's taken place. But in studio, we had a number of partners and consultants who we do a lot of work with that discussed ASCs and the emerging market. It impacts private equity, venture capital, the patient, the providers, the payers, and the surgeons.
86% of patients are candidates for an ASC, which is huge, and that's all comers. That's the 90-year-old grandpa, all the way to the 40-year-old workout fanatic that has a bad hip. So we can do a very high number of patients in the ASC.
Innovis Medical. Elliott Street represents some of the new breed of CEOs in the medtech industry. An entrepreneur, a surgeon, turning CEO and being wildly successful, and coming out of the UK, drafting behind pioneers like Nadine Hashashharam with Proximie. But Innovis really partnered with TMG and is helping rewrite the book for industry on how to bring best-in-class talent to the organizations.
At medical school, pretty much everyone can answer the questions.
Yeah.
They're either multiple choice or they're long form answers. Pretty much everyone's of the intellectual level to be able to do that. It's like outliers, they've all gone beyond the threshold. The bit that always would sort everyone out is what we call OSCEs, so the practical examinations, where you're going, you're having to take a history from a patient or break bad news or quite literally put a cannula in. And so we took that learning that was the bit that we found hardest. That was the highest stakes part of medical school exams for 5 years. Let's incorporate that into the businesses, these transferable skills. So yeah, we have these different stations, and you can tell the people that are really engaged in it because they'll come with props. That we do one for the for the sales managers where they have to effectively sell the simulator to us as if they're on an exhibition stand at a show.
It's a full-on role play during the interview process.
And you'll see some people will come, and this is the bit where they perform really well. They've answered all the questions nicely, especially the sales guys, because they can all answer questions well. And then the ones that haven't prepared, it's really obvious.
Another UK company that had its debut here in 160 Studios with Dragonfly, IQ Endoscopes. Why is this one important? Well, first of all, it's an amazing technology. And Matt Ginn and his team have developed a single use. And there's a lot of them. There's probably 30 plus out in the market today, depending on what sort of vertical you look in. But what it represents is a number of things. Is the emerging tech coming out of the UK. That's one. The second is single use is here to stay. It won't replace reusable, but single use is going to help patients, backlogs, sterilization issues, and the emerging hybrid surgical robotics space. The form factors and the visualization systems are going to be able to take advantage of the new form factors in single-use scopes.
The cause for it, or the reason behind it, is probably different in different geographies. So maybe I'll just talk about what we're seeing in the UK and Europe. So within endoscopy, we're all living longer. We've got an aging population. There's a preference for endoscopic technologies, and there's increased screening programs in most major countries. From the age of 45 to 50 now, you'll be screened in some way for early detection of cancer. All of that together is meaning that more and more people are picking up early signs, and at the minute, if you have an early symptom, you go straight for an endoscopy. So you can see the volumes. I mean, some analysts are saying global volumes will move from 70 million to 140 million. You know, whether it's that jump or not, but definitely there'll be over 100 million procedures, you know, across the year moving forward. And the industry itself is dominated by some phenomenal organizations, big camera companies with great products, and it's a complex world, and they're, you know, they are super technologies. But they've got some limitations in terms of the numbers that they can be used on, the reliance on decontamination, reprocessing. And when we look at the patient throughput coming in, you know, in the UK, our endoscopy rooms are already working at 5-7 days a week, 12 hours a day, and they're waiting on the scopes to come backward and forward from decontamination or reprocessing. And if you then have more people waiting at the door to come in, you know, supply can't meet demand. And that's now where single use has started to get, you know, real traction. And it's been proven through in bronchoscopy, cystoscopy, uteroscopy, some of the probably safer grounds to start with because they tend to be 2-axis planes. It's not as complicated as GI, but they've got a foothold in, you know, showing that it's there. So it's not that single use will, in the short term, replace reusable. That's not going to happen. But there's a capacity issue which is creating a supply and demand challenge. And unfortunately, with reusable endoscopes, they are reliant on decontamination and reprocessing. One thing we have in UK and Europe, which is probably slightly different to over here, is you don't always have decontamination on site. You might have a shared facility in a region. So your scopes are moving in lorries, in trucks, from the point of use to the reprocessing back again, and you need them at a certain point back on that list. Around about 20% of the time, they might come back broken or with parts missing or not back at all. And so then you could be sat around waiting, but I can't do the endoscopy without the scope. So what we're seeing over the last few years, and COVID really accelerated it, is that supply and demand challenge, which is creating a backlog. And how can we move patients who don't need anesthesia with more simple procedures away from the endoscopy suite into other parts of the hospital or the community to have a more diverse point of care?
Industry relationships, they matter. MDIC was in studio. We were busy with SDTS, AdvaMed, Mayo Summit, MassMedic. Being able to cross and collaborate with these organizations brings a richer insight to our organization and a richer insight to companies and careers that we're building.
Anyone in medtech really should be attending this conference. There's something there for everyone who's, you know, in early stage companies, later stage companies, folks that are working in patient advocacy, thinking about payer challenges and so forth. We have a really robust program kind of covering the key issues in which we work. And the way we've re-envisioned that program is we've gone 2 full days, and we're really explaining to stakeholders, attendees, the broader context of the work that we're doing, right? So it isn't just a, let us tell you about X program. We're taking it up a level. For example, we're sitting down and having a fireside chat with Deputy Secretary of HHS, Andrea Palm, and talking about cybersecurity, right? So then we're talking about our work in cybersecurity in the broader context as envisioned by one of our, you know, top healthcare and cybersecurity leaders. How does MDIC's work play into that, right? And then throughout that whole program, that's exactly the same thing we're doing, right? As we bring in these higher level speakers to talk about the issues on the broader stage of healthcare, and then talk about where MDIC's work fits into that.
Media partnerships. It was fun this year to have Tom Salemi back in-house.
Holly, you were at Device Talks Boston. Thank you for being part of that as well. We had Tom Poland there, the CEO of BD, talking about his elevation to the role a couple of years ago and the fact that he's already trying to identify his successor. As we see more medical device companies, the larger ones, have CEOs who, you know, maybe will be making moves in the coming years. Do you see larger medical device companies? Are there succession plans in place? Are these conversations happening at that level currently? Things that maybe someone who's calling folks on a routine basis, these companies would hear about, but us on the outside, we folks on the outside might not.
Yeah, so there's succession planning from, what did Tom Poland share? The second week on the job, he started talking about succession planning. So it's important, it's prudent, and in a company that is public, you're not only serving your employees, but you are serving the greater market. So there's response to that. So that's something that should be the fabric of a healthy, well-run organization, and it is part of the overall plan.
Those who report on the industry, who share the stories, the critical happenings. Tom in studio always brings a smile to my face, Holly Scott's face, and the audience. Tom's insight, as well as device talks, brings critical conversations to the forefront. Rafael Barraza represents another CEO turned entrepreneur who is also a surgeon. Rafa is bringing VPS, vascular perfusion solutions, to the marketplace. I am really excited about this transplant business. We've got organizations like Organox, Bridge to Life, Paragonics, all clients of TMG's. And we're watching this so critical technology come to market for patients and the families that are extending and saving the lives of others.
Why can't there be innovations like that for organ transportation? I mean, this is the most precious gift, right? Someone's donating an organ to be able to save a life. So the technology, the idea of the company was like, well, let's create cool technology, apply it to organ preservation, and you don't need a big machine. We can make everything small. And basically, that's the differentiator. So what we've done is, instead of using big, large machines, using blood or roller pumps, we use pneumatic pumps from industry that have been used for years into a simple perfusion technology. And we made it all as compact as possible to be able to be transportable, easy to use, and that's really where we come in. So the head of the device has all the pumps, the filters, the oxygenator, and then the case is pretty small to be able to keep it cold with basically with passive cooling instead of refrigerations or electronic components to keep it cold.
Distal Motion, Greg Rochenhaus, making the announcement to the world right here in 160 Studios. Super exciting. Distal Motion represents the next generation of a changing form factor in surgical robotics, soft tissue surgical robotics. Greg will be leading the US efforts. What I really like about this is that we're starting to see a change in the definition of robotics, moving into ASCs, out of hospitals, SaaS models, and including the existing technologies that are already sitting in ORs and ASCs, a robot on demand, if you will.
The beauty of great technology, it is simple. When you start to add features and complexities, again, it just makes it more difficult. It adds cost, and maybe the right places, but maybe not. So we really think of Dexter as simple. And again, when I say simple, it doesn't mean that it's not highly technical. This is a great device. What I mean is very easy to learn, to use the device. We see people get on and they have really a natural feel with the robot in under 10 minutes, first time applying it. It's also very easy to set up. It's very easy for the staff. And again, when you talk about adaptation of tech, it needs to be easy. People use iPhones because it's easy.
It's important to view the medtech industry as an ecosystem. There are no verticals. Everything is interrelated. What you do with a consulting organization, with a transplant business, with a media marketing organization, they all are interrelated. Bringing the technology to market, carrying the voice, being provocative, talking about the things that nobody wants to talk about, the elephant in the room. 2024 is setting up to be an amazing year, a breakthrough year. 2023, we suffered. As an industry, we suffered. Coming off the sugar high of what happened during the pandemic from an economic perspective. Bringing now a sobriety to the marketplace. I think we went through 11 interest rate hikes in 2023. We're walking into an election year. The markets don't like unpredictability. We're also seeing public markets shut down. We're seeing a geopolitical landmine occur in different regions of the world. However, 2024, we're going to rally. We're going to see all of these settle in. We're going to see the suppressed money in the marketplace return. Somebody once told me, think of this industry as a beautiful house sitting up on a hill. And just because the weather got bad didn't make that house any less pretty. 2024, Q4 of 2024, I believe, will be return to the golden years of medtech.